From dog tags to ownership, heroes take the lead. Stories of veterans building dreams with passion, drive, and speed. From service to success, we're here to inspire the quest. Dog tags to ownership, we're the best. Take the prize.
From the battlefield to the boardroom, this is Dog Tags to Ownership, the podcast where veterans share their journeys from serving our nation to leading in business. Hear inspiring stories of grit, growth, and the entrepreneurial spirit that drives those who've served to succeed. Tune in and take the first step toward your own mission in entrepreneurship.
Military One Percenters, welcome to Dog Tags to Ownership, where once a week we interview veterans who charted a path towards entrepreneurship. Here, our goals are to share resources, advice, and success stories about starting a business, discuss strategies for building financial independence and creating your own path, and most importantly, build a community to support each other through the challenges of transitioning from service life to civilian ownership. Today, we are extremely excited to introduce our guest to the show, Ash Stafford. Ash is a serving member of the British Armed Forces and the founder of Forces Brand, a website dedicated to the sale of veteran brands, from clothing and accessories to coffee, food, and much more. Ash, welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for joining us today, all the way from the UK, to talk about Forces Brand. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you, Julie and Matt, for having me on. Just spreading that same message as you guys from over here in the UK, empowering our veterans in business. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, welcome. And it's funny because Matt and I were talking earlier today, and he was like, so how did we get contacted with this guy? And I was like, well, him and I have been talking on Instagram based off of you having Forces Brand and just kind of helping each other out a little bit along the way as we've been DMing each other about different things, and then hooked you up with the Sober Vet podcast. I think also we are partnered with you and subscribed for you guys for your newsletter and stuff. But before we get into everything Forces Brand and all of that, could you first just tell us a little bit about yourself and your military service?
Yeah, so I joined at the ripe old age of 16. Here in the UK, you can join at 16. You go to what's called the Army Foundation College, kind of like a college, but for people who definitely want to join the Army. And that was in 2003. So I've done 22 years now service. I'm coming up towards the end of my service. Enjoyed my time, done my operational tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, as well as overseas exercises in America, most of Europe and Africa, and probably had a similar shared experience to most of the people that have served, whether they're British, American, or wherever they may be from. Looking forward to eventually being my own boss in some ways, but we'll see how that goes.
Did your time start at the age of 16, Ash, or did it start shortly thereafter?
No, it starts officially on your 18th birthday. It's kind of done a year and a half for free. Well, getting paid, but it doesn't go accumulate towards the time served.
You'll still be a young man when you retire, I guess, from the
Yeah, about 40. Enough time to get into something else.
old in military years, young in, civilian years, I guess.
Yeah. It takes its toll, doesn't it? It takes its toll.
It does. You're looking to transition here at some point, get out of the military, retire, and get into something else. Is that what started you to want to start Forces Brand? What is Forces Brand?
So it kind of came from somewhere else. And apologies for talking about this as it's a morbid topic. But a friend of mine who became a veteran after his time of service took his own life. I thought in my heart, I was completely devastated and wanted to do more and say more. And I was on the cusp of completely coming off of social media. And then when this happened to my friend, I just felt the need to want to embrace my fellow community and try and find a way of bringing them all together. So Forces Brands originally started off as a podcast, but it wasn't called Forces Brands. It was called Blue Pigment Podcast. And it centered around the creativity of members of the armed forces and veterans and how individuals express themselves. And I personally feel like individual expression is really important when you're in a career that you have to wear the same uniform, the same haircut, the same language. And these small opportunities that you get to express your individuality, you should take them at the maximum. So my podcast centered around that. And from there, I discovered that there was tons of people that were just like me, creative in mind, but not being able to show it. And most of those people that took that creativity very seriously and were passionate about it, developed it into a business, whether it was artwork for the back of t-shirts or a poetry or becoming an author or just expressing that individuality. And it got me wanting to do something myself. but I also didn't want to tread on the toes of the people that I liked and supported, and didn't want to tread on their toes. So I thought of an idea of how can I support them and be engaged in what they're doing, surround myself with the kind of people I am, surround myself with my tribe, if you would. And so I decided to create the website to collate them and try and have them all in one spot. It started off as kind of like a bit of a link tree. So just lots of different veteran-owned brands with one image and one link straight to their website. And from there, I just out of nowhere had the idea of why isn't there a veteran version of Amazon, for example, where you can get all different assortments of veteran-owned products all in one basket. So I kind of made that my mission to be like, how can I best support veterans in business? And it's functionable and it's working here in the UK at the moment, where people can go onto Forces Brands, they can shop direct with us and have multiple veteran-owned brands in one basket, which is the main emphasis of the website. It's also got a backup idea of a directory. If you can't find something in our shop, you can go find it via veteran. We're not precious over buy from us. We're just happy that you're buying from a veteran and supporting that community. There's the podcast app, which you're part of as well. Thank you. Where there's multiple veteran podcasts all under one application, kind of hoping to be the Spotify of veteran podcasts. And then we also have like a chat room function, which allows businesses and business supporters to communicate with what's coming up and that sort of thing. So in a nutshell, I guess Forces Brands is an advertisement agency for veteran-owned businesses.
So you started as a podcast, grew into the website, but then you also have an app. I have the app downloaded on my phone. I've shared it with other folks. How did you decide that you wanted to go from the website to the app? And then how was that process? Because I know in the United States, like building an app is not the easiest thing.
The app was really difficult and it's still not fully functioning the way I'd like it to. It takes a long time. Getting an app on like Android or, Google phone isn't too difficult, but getting it on iOS on the Apple iPhone is a long process, and you have to meet quite a lot of criteria. And the reason for wanting to go via an app is because marketing is kind of, everyone can see straight through marketing. I think these days you get these emails that are rolling in all the time. This is what we're selling. This is what we're doing. And it's kind of like, ignore. The app was there to try and the notification comes straight to your phone. Bing, new event, which is organized, which is about a veteran and a veteran business or a new veteran podcast. And that is sort of like leads you straight into the veteran business rather than being an email that goes to your junk mail, and then you've got to follow the link to wherever you want to go. The app was there just to be like, this is what's on offer. Come and have a look if you want, or just carry on with the rest of your day. But 100% difficult to launch an app.
Did you have any background, I guess, like IT background when you started the website and then the app, or like did you just learn by fire and figure it all out?
Yeah, the latter, absolutely not. Like I said, I joined the army at 16, I had a minimal education, was told for the majority of my life that I'm dyslexic, and I didn't really get any passion for learning and wanting to develop myself until later on in life. And then starting the business, it was kind of like, I'll just start this little thing. And I was like, hang on a minute, there's so much more that needs to go into this. And the amount of learning that I've had to do along the way has been phenomenal. Within the short time frame it's been around, I've definitely further educated on certain things I wasn't before. And some of them that I had zero idea even existed until, I submitted the website, and then somebody was like, oh, have you engaged in search engine optimization? I was like, what are you talking about? I had no idea, but that's like my main focus now, is trying to assist these veteran businesses and get them ranked higher on Google.
Tech people that you rely on for the support of the website and the app, or are you doing a lot of that now? And because the website is very intuitive, I went on there. It's very easy to find stuff on there and go to the US brands and find the podcast. So are you doing that, or do you have someone doing that for you?
No, that's all me. Yeah, it's all me. And as you know, I'm still serving, so I still have a full-time job. I have a young family, an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, and my wife and my tiny little dog that looks like a cat. Trying to find the time to fit it all in is outrageous. And I kind of feel like if I had the capacity to outsource this sort of thing, that would be great. But at the same time, it is about personal development in some ways. And it is about making connections with my tribe. And by outsourcing certain things, then I wouldn't have that connection. The personalization and the tribe building is at the forefront of Forces Brands.
Yeah. Have you been able to leverage any connections or network with folks that have been able to support you in the development side? And I don't want to keep, jumping on the tech side of it, but that's certainly where I'd be uncomfortable. And I know Julie has a friend that's helped us out with the website because the two of us, we'd still be like, trying to create an IP address right now. Do you have folks that are able to help you with that free of charge at all? Or
So a couple of months ago, there was a very generous website developer that kind of created a page for ideas for me to go off of. And I really liked the ideas that the website developer did and went with some of those ideas. And they just did it out of the goodness of their heart, just wanting to support the cause, I guess. But other than that, yeah, I've engaged in grants, trying to get grants for the business, entered a few competitions. And the tragic thing, I've entered 2 competitions and made the final 5 on both times and then came second or third. So not actually won the grant, which is devastating. However, this was grants for veteran and military-led businesses. And so it went to another veteran, which I'm, can't turn my nose up at. I'm pleased for them. The question you said about getting other people involved, I would be open to it in the future, I believe. And it's just trying to keep it veteran is one of my main movements, trying to keep it within the community. And I'm sure, you've probably heard of what we call Walter Mitty's, you call Stolen Valor. I have had people approach me and want to come onto the directory side of things. I've been a bit like, no, it needs to stay within messaging.
I think that's so important and what you're doing to try to help the veteran community, especially support small business, veteran entrepreneurs, because that's really what our podcast is about, as well as just telling those stories, providing that insight and that advice for folks who want to get into entrepreneurship and business ownership as a veteran. But I will say another thing, you're very active on social media and you have some very good social media videos and all of those things. You said you do everything. Do you as well do your social media, or does your wife help you with that? Or
That's all me. Yeah. So I refuse to, I do it in when no one's looking, I'll be like, oh, just put this together when no one's around. But there's a part of that. I'm a serving soldier. There's a persona that I'm perceived to have and that I should have. But there's also the side of me that refuses to not be myself. And I think that's really important to not let go of yourself when you're serving, because when you do leave, you've got to get it all back again. So yeah, I'm open to the occasional embarrassment on social media, as long as it's not too far.
yeah, I follow your social media. I like a lot of your stuff, and I try to comment whenever I can on the things that you have. So it's a very good social media page. So if you're out there, definitely check it out. Forces Brand. They're on Instagram. I think Facebook as well. I know for sure Instagram. That's where I mostly communicate with you from. But I guess as you're continuing to build Forces Brand, one of the things though, I always try to go and tag you on some of our stuff that we do, and then I'll see Forces Brand Canada or Forces Brand somewhere else. Are those affiliated to you, or is that not affiliated to you?
They're me. They are me. That's my avenue to try and, get as many different brands from the English speaking world into the one website. I kind of figured that if people see this Forces Brands, just the standard Forces Brands, that they may not be enticed to be like, oh, what's that about? So I developed the different Forces Brands USA, Forces Brands Canada, Australia, and New Zealand to kind of filter the brands to the Forces Brands one at Forces Brands and then onto the Forces Brands website. It's not been as successful as I would like it to have been. I probably could have just stuck to the original Instagram. But yeah, I feel like you've got all these different countries that we all have a very similar shared experience. And the only thing that's separating us really is, water. There's no language barrier. There's no difference in shared experience and all that. So there's no reason why we can't help each other out and spread anyone's message. Somebody's got a brand that is doing really well in their country and they want to take it to a different country. Why we can't help each other out in that regards. There's brands like Combat Flip Flop in America that did really well on Shark Tank. that, if they ever wanted to come to the UK, I could certainly set them up with a few people, and vice versa. There's other brands I know in the UK that eventually will be at the point where they'll probably want to tap into the American market. And as long as they're not treading on other people's toes and other veterans' toes, then if they've got a very unique idea, I'll try and support them where I can.
I guess, is that like how you see this growing though, is going, so like your app right now is Forces Brand, you have everything on there, but do you foresee it where there's a Forces Brand app specifically for the United States, one for like a drop down or something like that? Like, is that the way you see it kind of growing, or do you want to keep it all under one umbrella?
So the directory is already like that. The podcast is already like that, and the social network side of things is already that way inclined. The only part of the website that's not currently global is the shop. So the multi-veteran marketplace have all assortments of different veteran-owned brands in one basket. That's currently only in the UK. I would love to have a partner, whether it's in America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, that's running a similar thing, hopefully with the same name for those different countries. And that's, I believe, the way that we could grow the veteran entrepreneur community through not specifically like going after the big dogs, the Amazon and the Spotify and that sort of thing, but creating our own niche within a niche, I guess, which is to try and find those people that actively support veteran businesses and say, go to this website, and that's where you'll find your ability to support veteran businesses.
I love that idea. And you touched on a little bit earlier how initially it was just basically a page where you'd go to the actual homepage of another brand. It's different now. And how does that work? And I guess, how do veterans get on there? How do you get on your page?
Thank you very much for asking that question. So I have on the top of the header of the website, there's a button on there that says join us. If you're on a mobile, it's on the drop down menu, it says join us, and that'll take you to a form. You fill out the form with your business details, and then once you've done that form, it takes you onto another form, which is kind of like a verification form where it asks you for your name, your business name, and then a photo of your MOD license, or your military license or identification, or your veteran's ID card. And therefore, I can sort of like begin the verification process that this person is who they say they are. They're not a Walter, they're not stolen valor. They are part of the community, and then they can put their business onto the directory. There is probably a lot of other directories that have a similar thing, but may not have as thorough verification process. I like to keep it thorough because there's too many people out there that would jump on the backs of the glory that other people have done for their countries.
A lot of the businesses that I see on there is more like accessories, clothing, coffee, trips, I think, things like that. Have you looked at adding home service-based companies, the plumbers or the electricians, those type of dumpster businesses? Like we have one here that Joe from the Sober Vet, he has J-Dog Hauling, which is a dumpster company he's veteran-owned business. Like, have you thought about adding those types of businesses to the directory as well?
There are a couple that are like those sorts of businesses, and normally they've approached me rather than me approaching those businesses, because I prefer that it's more for the entrepreneurs that are online sales type businesses or have a store, like a physical bricks and mortar shop. There's so many people that have got out to be plumbers, electrical engineers, security. It would be an absolutely epic directory, and trying to find what you actually want would be pretty difficult. There are other directories out there that focus on those kind of businesses, but I guess for Forces Brands is more retail-led businesses.
Yeah. So in the United States, we have a thing that's called sam.gov, and you can register as a veteran-owned business that way. Do you all have that similar in the UK to like register as a veteran-owned business?
There's a couple of directories that you can be part of. We also have the Armed Forces Covenant, which is if you're a veteran-owned business, it's a .gov covenant where you become a veteran-owned business, and as long as you meet some of the criteria of the covenant, that you can have their stamp to say that you're part of the Armed Forces Covenant. But it's not always necessarily veteran-owned. It's just people that support the armed forces can apply for that, and they have to prove the ways that they support the armed forces. We also have it's kind of like Trust a Trader type website, but it's Trust a Veteran, and they deal a lot with the plumbers, electricians, engineers, and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So for us, for sam.gov, you have to be the 51% owner of the business to be registered as a veteran-owned business. And then there's also service-disabled veteran-owned business. And same thing, that 51% of the business has to be owned by someone who has a service disability, connected disability. So that's why I was wondering if you guys had something similar to that. And then you can label yourself as veteran-owned or service-disabled.
So I have a little stamp that the businesses that join Forces Brands can put on their website if they wish to. And it's Forces Brands Verified. It's got the logo and then kind of like a stamp looking artwork. And there's just to say, like, we've gone through the process of Forces Brands and we've been verified, stamp of approval type thing.
And did you come up with that? Like, how, I guess so if I'm a consumer and I'm like, okay, I see this business is Forces Brand stamped. Can I just go to your website and see like what all they had to go through that you authenticate to make sure that they are that?
Yeah. So in the About Us page or on the homepage, it goes through or the frequently asked questions. How is it somebody comes verified and the process they go through? I didn't come up with the idea. Obviously, there's lots of businesses that kind of do that thing. But yeah, that was one I kind of stole because I thought it was a good idea. And it allows people to show off a bit of status, a service member. And if you're into that, then come and support our business.
Part of that process isn't like low crawling through the mud or doing an obstacle course, anything like that.
Do you think I should add that?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I think if you're this type of person that's been, I don't know, you guys, Army.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. So you've been woken up at 2:00 in the morning in the freezing cold, somebody saying it's your turn on stag, it's your turn on duty. And if you've had to do that and you're the sort of person that jumps straight out of bed and goes, yeah, I'm ready to go, then, you deserve a little stamp that says I've been there, I've done that, I've worn the t-shirt.
What is the outlook for Forces Brand? What does it look like? What do the next couple of years look like?
So Jeff Bezos, eat your heart out. I'm after you. No, not quite. So the way I see it is if I and my business become a success, it would include many veteran businesses also on that ladder. Forces Brands cannot be a success without the businesses that are on the directory or in the shop being a success also. So my ambition is to, yes, be as successful as possible, but bring everyone with me. Forces Brands wouldn't be anything at all if the brands that joined hadn't joined. It would just be a plain website with not much to look at. So I have absolute respect to all the veterans that have, jumped on the website, filled in their details, verified themselves, got the stamp of approval and joined us. Like I say, and I can only get to the level of Jeff Bezos if we all muck in together and we all get there. And I wouldn't be taking the glory like some people may do, because it's all, I know that I'll get the absolute piss ripped out. I don't know if you get that terminology. They would be unkind.
I love that. And so to that point, can you talk a little bit? I imagine, are you familiar with like, being bootstrapped or like self-funded? And can you talk a little bit about the financial side of things? Like this is coming out, this is all self-funded, I imagine. You don't have investors helping behind the scenes, I'm guessing. And then how are you able to, make this profitable, if you will, or at least keep you afloat?
Yeah. So at the moment, when I first started, it was non-profitable. It was all funded by myself. Starting the website, starting the app, all that sort of stuff. It was all personally funded. The original directory wasn't up to scratch, so I renewed it and made it a lot more functionable. I brought the chat room side of things into it and made it a lot more appetizable for a brand to say that's worth a month. We have a tier system on the directory. The brands that contribute to Forces Brands get another little stamp that says subscriber, Forces Brand subscriber, and they sit higher up on the directory. And so that generates a little bit of revenue, so I can put out adverts on Instagram. I've done a few radio talks and some other podcasts, and it just gives me, as well as a little nudge in the side to say, come on, somebody's paid you to do some work, get on with yourself. And that gives me that motivation. I make a small commission on the products that are sold on the shop, and majority of that goes straight back into advertising anyway. So like I say, that's the reason why Forces Brands can't be a success unless the brands that are involved also become a success.
And I think for a lot of us veterans that are either currently serving or in the process of getting out, our first motivation is not making $1 million or getting a yacht like Jeff Bezos. It's things that you're doing things that Julie's doing with the podcast to grow our community. And the afterthought is like, hey, some of this stuff costs money, or I want to go travel to this conference. And, instead of having to like come out of pocket for everything, the next thought is, how do you start to monetize it versus, hey, I've got this idea and I want to take action because it's part of my why and part of my purpose to do this. But at the end of the day, it wouldn't hurt to have a little bit of money to support this. So I'm not coming out of pocket.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. It has to be sustainable, because if it's eating into your own personal life, not just the time, but the financial side of things, then it's not worth running it anymore. I feel like without however small it is, a little financial input can go a long way, just to give you that little boost.
What's been your biggest challenge of getting Forces brand started, running, getting people to buy into it? What's been your biggest challenge or your biggest hiccup for you to be able to get it to where it is today?
I would definitely say my biggest challenge is me. So my own self-belief is, sometimes positive, sometimes not so much. Like I was saying before, that time when you've got to get out of bed at 2:00 in the morning, it's absolutely freezing outside. And when you're in the military, there's somebody nudging you, saying it's your turn on duty, get up. And you listen to that person, and then you go and do your duty. When you're trying to do entrepreneurship, there's no person prodding you in the ribs. There's no person telling you to get up, get on with it. And you feel like, oh, am I going to be my own boss? Potentially, hopefully. However, what comes with that is nobody's going to tell you what to do. You've got to make all the decisions. And when you make the decisions, that comes with financial risk, time risk, and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, questioning myself sometimes, if I'm making the right choices on certain things. Am I putting enough time with my family? Am I putting enough time with other projects? Yeah, it's that imposter syndrome, I guess, sometimes creeps in. And then, at the back of your mind, you've got to remember as well that you're a service member. In any other water, you're the shark. Get after it. Kick yourself out of bed. If you could put in that much effort for your friends and your colleagues when you're on operational tours or over on deployments, and you can put in that much passion and ability to the mission, you just change your mission. Your mission becomes your own self-development. Your mission becomes your business development, or your mission becomes the support of your tribe. And so, yeah, that's the biggest challenge I've faced, is redefining myself.
So I think that segues into a great question before we get to the end of this. What piece of advice would you give to someone who is transitioning out of the military and wants to get into business ownership, entrepreneurship? What would be a piece of advice you would give them?
If I could give two, one's probably maybe a little bit more negative than the second one. And the first one would be not to rely on the people that you think you'll be able to rely on. And you'll be surprised with the people that you didn't even know that come out the woodworks in support of what you're trying to achieve. If family members don't get behind your idea, don't worry about it. Best friends, wives, girlfriends, whatever it is, aren't getting behind the idea. Don't worry about it. They don't have to yet. On the opposite side, you come up with an idea and some complete stranger you've never met in your life is like, I'm happy with what you're doing. This is great. I love the story. Let me share your post. Let me get my family over and engage in what you're doing. And they're the good times. They're the nice people that you want on your side. You want to surround yourself with that kind of people and those tribes. The second thing of my advice to anyone that's getting into business is, when you do find those tribes and those people that are positive, cling on to them. Bring them in as much as you can. Look after them, make sure that customer service is on point, because at the end of the day, if your customer service is on point, then those people talk, they tell their friends, they get the same experience, they tell more. And one bad customer service can set back 10, 20 good customer service opportunities.
Are we getting into the final two questions? No, I think, Ash, what you said is going to resonate. I know it resonates with me. I'm sure it resonates with Julie and a ton of our listeners. And I think we've, as aspiring podcast hosts still, with almost a year under our belt, certainly some doubters, and those that, like you've talked about, those that will lift you back up. And it's great, when you're feeling down, to tell the story and talk about, hey, we do this podcast or we do whatever side business it is. And to get that reaction, that response, and that like attaboy, can I get the link to listen to the podcast and that sort of thing. So it resonates with me. I'm sure it'll resonate with our listeners. So my passion is in real estate investing. So I listen to a lot of podcasts, audiobooks, read books in that arena. Do you have a book, a podcast, any advice that you'd give to the listeners for something maybe check out, read, listen to, that sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. There's one book that has completely revolutionized my thought process, and in the UK, it's called "Surrounded by Idiots." I don't know if you've ever heard of this book.
I think a colleague just gave that to my wife, actually.
Yeah, it's called so it's called "Surrounded by Idiots," and the main emphasis of the book, and I won't give too much away, but the main emphasis is that not everyone's an idiot. They just have different priorities to you. What they're focusing on at that given moment is different to what you're focusing on. So sometimes it may feel that they're being rude or dismissive of what it is you're doing. And it's just because at that particular time that they're not at the same level as you at that moment in time. And that's okay. If you can look at that and recognize that in people, move past it and concentrate on you and get to where you want to go, it's a really powerful tool and book to have. You kind of get the gist of it within the first few chapters, but it goes into the different types of characters that you may experience in a marketing environment. From the red, somebody that's bolshy and aggressive and or to a green, somebody that's maybe a little bit more submissive, and how to not utilize them, but how to best respond to those people to get the best out of them and to get the best out of you. It's a good book. Yeah. Surrounded by Idiots.
I'm going to have to go take it off my wife's shelf in her office and take a look at it.
I'm an audiobook kind of guy.
I am too, but you know what? Maybe I'll turn some pages.
I mean, I think you need something to do right now, Matt. So that might be a good idea for you.
All right. Okay.
Can I give you a second one?
Yes.
Sure.
48 Laws of Power.
Okay.
Have you heard of that one?
Yes,
No.
I have.
So again, it's a good book. It goes into kind of like the psyche of people without them knowing that what it is that they're doing, and it's a little way of just knowing of when to speak, when not to speak. And I had somebody kind of chopsing off, or what would you call that? Gobbing off, getting Larry. Do you understand what I'm
I
saying?
think so.
So somebody was online, giving a bit of banter and probably being a bit rude, and just knowing that me operating as Forces Brands is not the right place for me to start hailing abuse back and be professional and all that sort of stuff. And keep your cards close to your chest. It's a good book.
Yeah, it is a great book. I've read it before, and it's a good one if like for whatever you're doing, you can use that. The last question of every episode is Admiral William McRaven. He is a Navy admiral, authored the book. He's a U.S. Navy admiral. He authored the book, Make Your Bed, Little Things That Can Change Your Life and Maybe the World. So do you make your bed every morning?
Do you want me to lie or? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I will try and make it as often as I can, but it's not getting made every single day. And it's a great book and a great analogy, but I also feel like if you've got time to make your bed every day, you've got time to do other stuff as well. Go for a run, then come back and make your bed.
I like that.
I love the analogy. Absolutely love the analogy that small wins, small victories lead to big wins. And I get it, but my bed is not made.
Ash, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the podcast and for having our podcast on Forces Brands. You seem wise beyond your years, and you're in a much better place, I would say, than I probably was when I was 40 and nearing the end of my career. And what you're doing seems so important, and I think it'll absolutely resonate with our listeners. And I do hope that it continues to gain traction, and your success and the success of everybody on Forces Brands continues to evolve. I applaud you for your efforts.
And thank you for taking the time to listen to me tell you about my bad discipline without making my bed this morning.
Military One Percenters, whether you're brainstorming your first business idea, already running a company, or just curious about where to start, Dog Tags the Ownership is the place for you. Please hit that subscribe button to receive all new episodes. Also, if you know someone who has turned their dog tags into ownership, drop us a DM on social media or tag someone. We are always looking for new guests to bring onto the podcast. And as always, Military One Percenters, thank you for your service. Let's continue this journey and working together to write our next chapter. Until next week, keep pushing to turn those dog tags into ownership.
From dog tags to ownership, heroes take the lead. Stories of veterans building dreams with passion, drive, and speed. From service to success, we're here to inspire the quest. Dog tags to ownership, we're the best.